Walk into any major shopping mall in London, New York, or Sydney today, and you might get déjà vu. That indoor garden? The prayer room tucked beside the restrooms? The entire floor dedicated to food from different cultures? You're not imagining it. Western cities are quietly copying a playbook that Kuala Lumpur perfected decades ago, and most people have no idea it's happening. If you've ever wondered why our malls feel different from the ones you see in American movies, or if you've noticed KL's malls popping up in international urban planning conferences, hit that like button. Because what started as our solution to tropical heat and cultural diversity has become the blueprint for the future of retail worldwide. Assalamu alaikum. Here's something that'll surprise you. In 2019, a delegation of city planners from Seattle spent 3 days studying Pavilion KL. Not for shopping tips. For urban design strategy. They wanted to understand how a single building could function as a community center, tourist destination, transit hub, and retail space simultaneously. The answer? We never separated those things in the first place. Let's rewind to 1995. While American malls were building massive parking lots in suburbs, forcing you to drive everywhere, Malaysia was doing something radically different. We were connecting malls directly to our LRT and monorail systems. Surya KLCC wasn't just a mall. It was the gateway to the Petronas Towers, a concert hall, a science center, and a public park. We built vertical cities before anyone called them that. But here's the thing. We didn't do this because we were visionary. We did it because we had no choice. Our climate is unforgiving. You can't casually stroll between shops when it's 33 degrees with 80% humidity. Our population is diverse. You can't ignore the needs of Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, and Christians when they're all shopping in the same space. Our cities are dense. You can't waste land on sprawling single-story retail when space costs are $3,000 per square foot. So we adapted. And that adaptation created something Western cities are now desperate to replicate. Let me show you what they're copying. First, the integration of public transportation and retail. Mid-Valley Megamall connects to the KTM. Pavilion links to the monorail. New Central sits literally on top of KL Central Station. This isn't convenience. It's necessity turned into genius design. When Hudson Yards opened in Manhattan in 2019, connected directly to the 7 train extension, urban planners praised it as revolutionary. We've been doing this since Sungai Wang Plaza connected to the old monorail station in the 90s. The difference? New York spent $25 billion on Hudson Yards. We built similar integration for a fraction of that cost because we planned our transit and retail together from the start, not as an afterthought. Second, climate control as a public amenity. Air conditioning in Malaysia isn't a luxury. It's a utility. Our malls became de facto community centers because they offered the one thing our humid climate makes precious: comfortable air. People come to malls not just to shop, but to exist comfortably for hours. Western cities are finally catching on. As climate change makes European summers unbearable, they're redesigning retail spaces as cooling centers. Paris is retrofitting old department stores with advanced air systems. Berlin is building shopping districts with climate-controlled walkways. Sound familiar? That's basically Bukit Bintang's covered walkways and connected malls that we've had for 20 years. Third, and this is huge, the integration of prayer spaces and multi-faith facilities. Every major mall in KL has a surau. Most have designated prayer rooms for other faiths too. This wasn't religious activism. It was practical business. If Muslims need to pray 5 times a day and you want them to stay in your mall for 6 hours, you accommodate that need. Now watch this. The Dubai Mall obviously copied this model. But so did Westfield London. So did shopping centers in Toronto and Melbourne. They're calling them quiet reflection rooms or meditation spaces, but the function is identical. create space for religious and cultural practices, and people stay longer and spend more. Fourth, food courts that actually represent diversity. Mamak stalls next to Korean BBQ, next to Italian pasta, next to nasi lemak. Our food courts aren't segregated by cuisine or price point. They're organized chaos that somehow works. You can get a RM6 meal or a RM40 meal in the same space, sitting at the same tables. Western malls traditionally separated food by price. Fast food in the basement, casual dining on level 3, fine dining on top. This created class segregation. Now they're scrambling to create food halls that mix price points and cuisines. Time Out Market in Lisbon, Chelsea Market in New York, Mercado Metropolitano in London. They're all copying the Malaysian food court model, just charging triple the price. Fifth, retail as entertainment and experience. We never believed shopping was just about buying things. It was about escaping the heat, meeting friends, letting kids play, watching movies, maybe buying something. Berjaya Times Square put a theme park inside a mall in 2003. Sunway Pyramid built an ice skating rink in a tropical country. We understood early that retail needed to be experiential to survive. Amazon's retail strategy now? Experience-based stores. Apple stores with community events. Nike stores with basketball courts. Bookstores with cafes and reading nooks. They're all trying to recreate what Kinokuniya in KLCC has done since 1998. Make the space about more than the transaction. But wait until you hear what they're copying that even we don't realize we invented. The concept of third-place architecture. Not home, not work, but a third place where community happens. Western urban theorists are obsessed with this idea right now. They're writing papers about how cities lost their third places when they demolished public squares and community centers. Meanwhile, we've been using malls as third places for 30 years. Where do you meet friends when you don't want to go to someone's house? The mall. Where do families spend Sunday afternoons? The mall. Where do teenagers hang out? The mall. Where do retirees walk for exercise in air-conditioned comfort? The mall. The Curve in Mutiara. Damansara designed outdoor spaces specifically for community events. They host concerts, markets, festivals. The mall becomes the town square. This blending of commercial and civic space is exactly what new urbanist planners are trying to create in Western cities, except they're doing it with massive public funding. We did it with private investment because the market demanded it. Here's something most Malaysians don't know. International retail consultants now use KL malls as case studies for vertical urbanism. That's the fancy term for stacking different uses in one building. Residence above, retail above transit. Mixed income, mixed use, hyper-efficient. Fahrenheit 88 on Bukit Bintang is 7 levels of retail, but it's also connected to office buildings and hotels through sky bridges. You can live, work, shop, eat, and entertain yourself within a 200-meter radius without ever stepping outside. That's not just convenient. It's the future of sustainable urban design. Cities like Copenhagen and Amsterdam are now mandating this kind of integration in new developments. They're legally requiring mixed-use buildings with retail, residential, and transit connections. They're calling it progressive policy. We've been doing it because land is expensive and rain is frequent. The prayer room thing deserves more attention. Because this isn't just about religion. It's about understanding your population and designing for reality, not ideology. Western malls assumed everyone shops the same way. Malaysian malls knew different people have different needs at different times of day. Need to nurse a baby? There's a nursing room. Need to pray? There's a surau. Need to watch your kids while you shop? There's a supervised play area. Need to break fast during Ramadan? The food court adjusts its hours and offerings. This flexibility and cultural awareness is what international retail consultants now call inclusive design. We just called it common sense. And here's where it gets really interesting. The death of suburban malls in America versus the thriving of urban malls in Malaysia. American malls are dying because they were built for car culture. You drive there, park, shop, drive home. When online shopping eliminated the need to drive somewhere for products, the malls lost their purpose. Malaysian malls survived and thrived because they were never just about products. They were about air conditioning, food, socializing, entertainment, and yes, occasionally buying things. The mall served social and cultural functions that online shopping can't replace. You can't get out of the heat on Lazada. You can't meet your friends for bubble tea on Shopee. Western developers are now trying to retrofit their dying suburban malls into mixed-use town centers, adding apartments, offices, parks, transit links, basically trying to create what we already have. The difference is they're spending billions to fix a mistake. We avoided the mistake by building differently from the start. One last thing that's being copied: the aesthetic of controlled chaos. Our malls aren't minimalist. They're not sterile. They're colorful, busy, layered with signs and decorations and seasonal themes. Pavilions, Ramadan decorations, Christmas lights, Chinese New Year displays. This constant visual change keeps spaces feeling alive and current. For decades, Western retail design prized clean lines and neutral colors. Now they're realizing those spaces feel cold and uninviting. So they're adding color, texture, cultural celebrations, seasonal variations. They're trying to make retail spaces feel lived in and community-owned, like our malls always have. The Seattle planners I mentioned earlier, they wrote a report after visiting KL. Their conclusion was that Malaysian malls succeed because they're designed for people, not cars. For communities, not just consumers. For diverse needs, not average assumptions. They recommended Seattle adopt similar integration of transit, retail, public space, and cultural accommodation. That report is now being used by city planners across North America and Europe. So next time someone complains about Malaysians spending too much time at malls, remind them this: what we created out of necessity, the world is now copying by design. Our malls aren't just shopping centers. They're prototypes for the future of urban living. Climate-controlled, culturally inclusive, socially vibrant, transit-connected vertical cities. Western cities spent decades building sprawl. Now they're spending billions trying to build what we already perfected. The concrete jungles that connects our LRTs. The food courts that mix roti canai with ramen. The saraos beside the Starbucks. That's not just Malaysian culture. That's the future of cities worldwide. And we built it first. Like this video, if that makes you proud, subscribe to see what else Malaysia does that the world hasn't noticed yet, and drop a comment telling me which KL mall you think nailed this concept best. Because the secret's out. The world is watching, and they're taking